Hello, everybody. Hi, Janet.
Hi, Jill.
Welcome, everybody, to number 19. We have a great topic for you today. We're very excited about it. Janet, are you okay if I introduce it?
Please.
Okay. So, there is this theme that can come up quite often in this reality, and it's that we can feel really vulnerable and even disempowered,
Mm,
that things aren't going the way we wanted them to in our lives. And you are not alone in feeling that. So, what we're hoping to offer today is a sense of reassurance and just the kind of message of it's okay. It's okay. It's going to be okay, even if it doesn't look like it's going to be okay. Because the main ingredient of things being okay is how you respond when
mm,
things don't feel like they're going okay.
mhm,
So yes, you can be the reassuring presence for others, and some of you probably are regularly in your in other people in your lives. But sometimes we need that for ourselves. And no
mhm,
matter what's going on and where in the world you are, I hope that this one just absolutely delivers because it's so important and it's such a common theme at different
mm,
parts in our lives.
mhm.
Anything else you want to add to that sort of intro?
Um, I am very excited about this because I can feel, I want to say a level of power. Like literally, as Jill was introducing it, I just dropped into myself on a different level. And that we wouldn't necessarily associate with vulnerability, but that dropping in and that the being okay and the reassurance really comes with, which we've talked about before, with being okay with the unknown. And it has to do with kind of a level of faith. And I'll say faith in ourselves and faith in all that is. And the other kind of thing I wanted to introduce here is this is where our experience can be so helpful. When I look at those times in my life that I thought were the absolutely worst things that could ever happen, and I look at what actually resulted from that experience, it's helpful. I mean, I tend to make, if you haven't noticed, people, I tend to make lemonade out of lemons. That's a skill set of mine and this eternal optimism. So I particularly ride that wave and I love that that's one of my gifts here. And that's how I get to inspire others to really increase their ability to do that. And it really is true. If I can look back on things in my life and I was like, how in God's name did I do that? I have no idea. And I was like, ah. You know, it's more God, really. It's more essence. It's more of my
Mm,
soulfulness. It's more of me and the way that I navigated it, even though it might have been challenging, even though I felt like the
mm,
world was going to end, because it really did on some level. That version of reality ended. And I was basically catapulted into a whole nother experience of life. And it's amazing to me how we're really in the year of the snake. And since it started, we have not been out of the year of the snake, and how our topics really just are completely in alignment with that, because that's what this is. And
yeah.
we are going to have, my feeling is, much more opportunities to be vulnerable. And that's vulnerability to ourselves. And that's that peace and harmony that has also been a theme of our recent podcast, Inwardly, and to know that's even better than okay.
It's so big. Yeah. Before we go further, I do want to invite some of us into a bit of digging because some of us that are optimistic survivors, or we kind of know ourselves as people that can get through difficult things, we may have created a strategy
Mm,
of pretending that things are not disappointing to us.
mm,
um, I know a lot of people in this community that have um, as an example, invested in programs. I am doing
Mhm.
this program where I'm learning how to do this, or getting better at that. And and then after the program is ending or after they're in it, I'm like, so is it what you thought it would be? Well, yeah, I'm learning a lot. But is it what you thought it would be? Well, no. But okay, so would you have said yes to this
Mhm.
had you known then what you know now? And they just look at me like, why are you poking at my wound? You know what I mean? But some of us have a almost like a I want to use the word coping, but I mean this as a compliment. We have a system of moving forward in our lives where we step right around or right over, or we tuck away disappointments, disillusionment, things that did not go the way we wanted it to.
Mhm.
And I love that about you.
Mhm. Mhm.
But what we're going to offer today is a
Mhm.
system of more consciously addressing where you are absolutely bummed, or you have that moment of, well, damn it,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
you can be more, I want to use the word honest with yourself.
Mhm.
And I'm exactly an example of this in my life. I have a
Mhm.
strategy, and I had a strategy of, yep, that doesn't bother me. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm learning. It's all these things. But I wasn't being honest with myself because I don't like to feel sad, and I
Mhm.
don't like to feel like I made a bad choice. And I don't like the feeling of somebody tricked me into saying yes to something that wasn't what they led me to believe it was or told me it would be. So I don't like to feel conned, right? So there've been different moments in my life of, well, that really sucked. And now I'm more honest. I have a better system of being honest with myself. And because of my being more honest with myself about when I'm sad, disappointed, or frustrated, or angry, or whatever, I'm a better Jill because of it, because I'm not consuming energy protecting myself from my reality. I have a system of, well, that does suck. Dang it. Well, it's okay. It's all right. It doesn't have to mean anything huge. It can just be a bummer. And I love myself, and I'm going to give myself it's okay. Yeah, you're right. We wouldn't have said yes to that had we known what we know now. And now I'm better at seeing it when it happens in my present. So I have more discernment, I have more clarity, I have more skepticism that doesn't keep me from opportunity, but I feel like I make less mistakes. And
Mhm.
I do believe like we could to me, a mistake isn't you screwed up. A mistake is you wouldn't have done that. You wouldn't do that again if you knew then what you know
Mhm.
now. It's
Mhm.
okay to have a mistake. It's okay to call it a mistake. Some people believe there are no mistakes. And if that system works for you, that's great. When I tried out that system, I found I wasn't being as real and honest with myself. And I didn't like that Jill as well as I like the Jill that I'm operating from now.
Mhm.
Okay, so I just invite anyone, all the little nooks and crannies of disappointment or damn it's that you have, just let them be right front and center, almost like literally a pot of gold or a pot of coal, right at the front of your heart, so
Mhm.
that you can let yourself be okay.
Mhm.
Let yourself be okay,
Mhm.
because you are okay.
Mhm.
And it's okay because you allow you to be okay so that you can move forward in your present and in your future.
Mhm. Mm.
Oh, there we go. I just felt love, and that coal turned to gold instantly.
That's beautiful. This is the essence of vulnerability to me.
So good.
And just because I have a level of joy that will not get turned off here. And and I love that. And I am in a earthly plane, right? I'm on earth. I'm in a human experience, and I have gotten to pop a lot of bubbles
Mm,
in terms of I thought things were one way and they ended up being another. I've also gotten to experience, I will say, pretty extreme emotion in responses to things that happened in my past. And I do not encourage anybody to ignore that ever, 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 ever. And I'm thinking of just a profound moment I had at one of my retreats where there was a woman who was having an emotional process. And I remember just sitting on the floor with her as she bawled, and we were both bawling. I don't even know why. I can't even tell
Mm,
you. And it didn't even matter. What mattered is that those were emotions. We were
mm,
both vulnerable enough. She was vulnerable with herself. I was vulnerable with her, and I was vulnerable with me. And we
mm.
sat there and just cried until we were done. And she shared a bunch of stuff, and she had a profound transformation and couldn't wait to have another one, right? Like it was just, it was so profound. And so that's vulnerability. And so please do not mistake my optimism or my lemonade for for not going deep and not understanding the depths of vulnerability. And the gold is in the little pockets of ourselves that we have very deliberately and unconsciously often stashed away, put there because we just couldn't deal with whatever it was. There's gold there.
Beautiful. And I love the metaphor. It's one of my favorites too about making lemonade out of lemons because it isn't denying it's a lemon. It's not pretending it's like some pre-made,
Mm.
natural sweetener, just yumminess. It's like it's a lemon. I don't know many people that will just like bite into a lemon and go, yum. You know what I mean? So it's like it's a lemon. You got to be careful with the lemon. It does really good things and with the right other ingredients and for the right purpose and the right cleaning, if you need it, but it is a lemon, and it's acknowledging that it's a lemon. So what you just said matches perfectly with this honesty. And like you said, sometimes honesty requires vulnerability.
Yeah.
And I really encourage the audience to, if that is not your strong suit, I know from my own journey, making vulnerability, making yourself a safer place just inside you to be vulnerable and real and honest and acknowledging the lemons that didn't come with sweetener, you had to add it, right?
Mhm.
Is a power move in this reality. And I never would have known that had I not applied it for myself.
Mhm.
There was a lot of denialism as in my earlier decades of life, and then I was just like, oh wait, yeah, whoa, this is something I would never want anyone to know about me or to talk about openly or to even think about in myself. And I had an experience actually at a retreat, somebody else's retreat, the only other retreat I've ever been on that wasn't my own.
Mm.
And they started this process that was like, okay, what's the worst thing that you do not want any of us to know?
Mm.
And we all did this. And I was just like, and my initial thought was, because I'm like, I host retreats. I had such arrogance going into this retreat. It was really cringy. And I can totally own this. And I was like, well, I don't have anything. I help other people with their vulnerabilities. And then all of a sudden, my thought was like, oh, but wait, there's that. I was like, oh, shit. Oh, there is something in there. And I was pretending in myself that there was nothing in there. And then
Mm.
all of a sudden, in this environment and allowing myself to take part in what was being offered, which was good, I was like, oh, shit. Oh, yeah. I don't want to talk about that. That was a long time ago, right? We all have something like that. But I
Yeah.
was pretending I didn't. And that just is hilarious to me now.
That's really a good kind of indication, the things that I don't want to say. Like,
Yes.
pay attention to the things I don't want to say.
Yeah. I love to, I love to get out something to take note on, if you were meeting somebody that you wanted to create, you were excited about the potential connection with them. So somebody you cared about the possibilities there. What's the last thing you would want them to know about you?
Mm.
And maybe you do write it down. Maybe you do say it out loud to your in just in your own safe space. Go in the bathroom, turn on a fan if you live with somebody else, and just say it out loud and just let yourself realize that you didn't poof, you didn't turn into a ball of flame, you didn't melt. You're actually okay. It's okay. Not so bad. It's but we've made it bad in ourselves.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. It's shocking to me the things that ideas like if I felt at all, I would something would happen, the world would end. Like the
Oh,
ideas,
really? The world would end.
I mean,
That's next level. I'm impressed.
I mean, literally that's what I felt. And I found out when I let myself feel this was like over 30 years ago, right? When I finally let myself feel, I found out why I waited so long because there were a lot of feelings. It took me years to go through what I called my backlog, and it was so worth it because I actually found a level of emotional maturity, and that could be debatable even at this point. I found a of emotional maturity or wisdom or way of operating in the world that was priceless, that I wouldn't be able to have because of I wasn't here completely, right? But oh my goodness, it's
Yeah.
the stories. The point is the stories and the resistance, the layers.
Uh,
Oh, this is so good. Like, so the layers of resistance that I and we have created both personally and collectively
oh my
to
God.
not be
Yeah.
vulnerable, to not pay attention. And I could use some fairly global examples at this point. I won't get political or anything, but there are some things that we thought reality was certain ways. And this could be in our
Mm,
personal lives or in the outside world. And lo and behold, we are getting opportunities right now to really find that strength of that vulnerability of that God consciousness within, to really let any bubbles burst that need to go. And the things that we really do believe, that we really know to be true and so heart centered and so much a core of us that we can't not know that this is true, those we just get to like,
mm. Yeah.
own and be.
That's so big. Because if you guys are disappointed by something in your personal life, whether that's you personally feeling affected by something global or you personally affected by something very, to use Janice's terms, macro and micro, both of them, you are not doing it wrong if you are disappointed. You are not doing it wrong. You are not living your soulfulness in a negative way. You are not unenlightened if you're disappointed, feeling disempowered, or feeling like you don't have control over a certain outcome. You are not doing it wrong. The feature set about this reality, okay? It's okay. It's totally okay. Oh, I just feel that kind of detachment. We talked in number 18 about dropping the rope. There were a lot of ropes that were just dropped right there. It's okay. And it's completely understandable how in certain settings or with certain people, you don't want to talk about those. You don't want to if you're a business owner or trying to grow and be successful or more successful in a certain thing, it's not your marketing. Yeah, this didn't go my way and that didn't go my way. I'm not asking you to be vulnerable in a silly way, but let yourself be real with you that it's a bummer. And I will give a little example. Is that okay, Janet?
Sure,
Okay,
please.
so I also do real estate. That was something about 2 years ago that I was like, you know what? I want a new challenge. I want something else that I can monetize that feels a bit more made for monetization
Mm,
versus the work that Janet and I do. Sometimes
mm,
my perception and my experience with this work was I don't know if this is going to meet the financial goals that I like to have for myself. So let me
mm,
just do something totally different that does
mm,
have a money aspect of it that feels like an interesting new challenge that I'm well suited for. So that's I got into real estate a couple years ago in addition to this work that I do. And there's a neighbor of mine that the house was for I knew he was going to list. And 2 years ago, I had tried to get that listing. I tried to become the selling agent on that. And he didn't pick me and the team I was on at the time, but he chose our top competitor. it never sold. So
Mm,
he ended up taking it off the market, no
mm,
longer with the original listing agent. Um, and I was like, oh, I saw it went off the market. How are you doing? How can I help? I noticed this, I noticed that. I have some great ideas for how you can be more successful this time because, as my neighbor, I know you're really interested in selling. And this time I never heard back from him, which is unusual because we did have a pretty decent rapport. We're not close, but he is a neighbor and we know each other and we're friendly. So no response was kind of interesting. Yesterday, I drove in from the neighborhood after running errands with my 19-year-old daughter, Georgia, and there's a big sign in the yard for my former team that I had helped pitch the listing to. And I'm
wow.
like, well, damn it, Vic. Really? You didn't respond to my text, and now you list with that team. And then it was a huge disappointment. And I was just
Mm,
like, damn it. I wanted the chance, right, to take care of him and help a great family buy his house and get a great additional neighbor. And now that we're losing him, right? Anyway, and I'm still bummed about it. And now I've got to drive by that effing sign every day until it sells. And it's an expensive house, so it takes a little longer to sell those houses. And I'm just like, damn it, this is just insulting. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, so it's so silly. It's definitely not a macro problem.
mhm,
It's a micro disappointment. But I knew my daughter had seen it because we drove separately on our errands. And then she goes, did you see the sign in Vic's yard? And I'm like, I did. So it was so sweet. And yeah, I'm super bummed. And then we mentioned it to my husband, and he goes, he didn't even text you. And I'm like, I know. It's a bummer, isn't it? So I was letting myself be real. I didn't
mm,
want to pour the sugar in that lemon and water at all. I just wanted to let myself feel the very intense acid of that lemon and let myself be real that it is a disappointment.
mm. Thank you for sharing that. What I really feel is so important. One of the things that's so important what you said is to not hurry,
It's good.
like when I hurry and rush the process, a lot of times I miss the gold of it. And I don't even know what that is. And a
Mm.
lot of times I'll get these sort of instincts to pause. Sometimes I know why after the fact, and sometimes I don't. And it doesn't matter, right?
Mm.
But that full expression, because if I have a bigger expression than I'm allowing myself to have, I usually end up stuffing it somewhere, you know,
Mm.
because it's a full expression. And as much as we don't like it, that's part of what living here on this planet is like. We have experiences of feeling. And wow, I try not to judge them or resist them, but it does require
Mhm.
that level of vulnerability because other people don't allow themselves to pause. Like I'm afraid what other people will think. Is it too big of a response? Is it
Mhm.
too small? I mean, there's so many reasons I could not give myself that full experience.
How big?
Gosh, and the way you handle that is about you and your impeccability. And I love that,
Mm. Mm. I
you
I
know?
agree, Finn, for all of us. Yeah. And I hadn't made that Jill yet, you guys. I hadn't made that Jill. So this is a power move. And can I add a deeper layer to this, Janet?
Please.
You guys, this affects your death process and it affects your afterlife process. There are so many stories that individuals have when they were with somebody at the end of life or the hospice kind of days where the
Mm,
skeletons are flooding out of the closet. It's so wild. It's just like, what is happening? My father-in-law was arguing with my mother-in-law, confused that she was his first wife. And
mm,
he was saying things. She was like, what is happening?
mm,
And then the nurses were like, okay, he said a name. So the nurses were helping her kind of unpack this because she didn't have experience with this.
mm,
So, anyway, you can clean out these closets now by putting less in them, and it will affect you at your departure date, and it will affect you in the afterlife because you are creating a system of processing and loving on and acknowledging and making yourself okay when you don't feel okay in a real, vulnerable, authentic,
mm,
soulful way with all of the God energy you have access to, which is endless. There's nothing in your storage closet, your skeleton closet, that your God energy cannot handle. Nothing
mm,
is off limits here. God's grace, God's love, anything you need, God's comfort that you are and you have access to is limitless.
mm,
You don't need to protect your God energy from that. It's ready for it.
mm,
Feel like sometimes we forget that too. We have elements of whether it's shame or just, again, lack of personal acknowledgement for stuff that it's just tucked away neatly in the closet. But if you can create the system like we're offering today of, okay, okay, damn it, I wouldn't have done that, or I wish it wouldn't have done that again, or I wish I wouldn't have said that, or I wish that wouldn't have happened just now. And that's shitty. Why did they do that to me? Why didn't they do this when, I'm better or whatever? That you give yourself all the space you need to
mm,
tell yourself it's okay. It sucks. It's okay. You can create your system for that. You are a stronger, more sustainable, more sturdy version of your light, your love, everything you love about soulfulness and godliness in this reality. You will create in the process a better version of you that can handle any disappointment that can come up, any and all, while you're clearing out, filtering through any elements of the past too that you're hanging on to. And it does affect your death and dying process, and it definitely affects your afterlife process.
mhm. Yeah, that's so beautiful because it does affect everything. It affects your now. It affects, I mean, if you think about it, if I've got these little stashes of things that I haven't dealt with, of course, it's then life becomes navigating them, right? Oh, I got to go a little bit this way. It's literally like an obstacle course,
Yeah.
right? And so the idea is to first not create any more obstacles.
Yes.
Right?
Don't create new ones.
Don't create new ones, and then find to me the most efficient, profound, beautiful way to
Mm,
transform the ones that are there.
it's so big.
And that,
The
I love that.
It's so big. The other very tangible reason to motivate people to do this is relationships,
Mm,
because we all know people, and I'll use the metaphor of landmines. They've got landmines all over the place. You're
mm,
not allowed to talk about this. You definitely don't talk about that. And don't point out that they've gained weight or, whatever. Don't
mm,
point out that they do look 10 years older than they did a year ago or whatever. They're just sensitivities that they're
mm,
protecting themselves from.
mm,
And because you are probably a loving, compassionate, caring person, you
mm,
are protecting them from being hurt too. And it takes so much energy with people like that. And some of us, we are that and we
mm,
don't realize it. Some of us are very sensitive. And
mm,
if we haven't created the system that we're talking about, it's okay, right? You're giving a job to
mm,
everyone in your relationships to help you feel safe and protected from
mm,
what is real and what is disappointing and what is happening or has happened in your life. You're
mm,
giving them a job that you don't need to give them.
mm,
You can have a self-sustaining form of it's okay. It's going to be okay. I'll get through it. I'll get through it. It's hard right now, right? Like my daughter knew my relationships are so much better now
mm,
because I'm not asking anyone to pretend something isn't real or something isn't true. And that silly example I gave is the perfect example of it. The level of, I want to say, emotional intimacy and
mm,
realness that I have with my 19-year-old, we didn't have that 10 years ago.
mm,
She can be real in her disappointments with me, and I can be real in my disappointments with her. And that isn't all of our relationship at all. We don't just sit there and pick scabs on each other.
mm,
but it's a safe space for that so that we can have a great time together and enjoy our own lives and enjoy each other and the lives that we have overlapping as a parent and a mother and a daughter.
Mhm. And we can really create those levels of relationships because, it is my responsibility really to pick what level of intimacy is appropriate for the different people in my life.
Good point.
Mm. Because not everybody is going to be able to hold that. I mean, it's been a couple years now, I think, but there were some major relationship shifts that I had because I realized that the this these particular friends, and I'll just pick one, that they didn't realize, like, we had such a different perception on certain things, and I would say stuff and they didn't know what I was talking about, and it didn't matter, but I realized that there was a dynamic here that wasn't healthy for me, and
Mhm.
I knew that if I was more intimate, that that information was going to be used at some point to kind of poke me with it,
Ooh,
and I don't wanna pretend.
they were gonna
Yes,
weaponize your vulnerabilities. Oh, people like
exactly.
that are oh, it's
And I
like,
didn't wanna pretend that I didn't know that,
mm,
right? And that's another. I don't wanna
big.
pretend that some people are trustworthy, and I use that word very kind of loosely when they're not, and trustworthy means that we honor, respect. It's not that we don't make mistakes, but the way we deal
Mhm.
with the things that happen is direct and loving and kind as loving as possible, right? So that's another sort of, not to discourage vulnerability, but really to up our discernment mechanisms because on the inside, we know and we have clues. And the temptation to ignore clues about what people are always telling us about who they are and how they interact with people, those are always there.
So important. I
And
love what you're saying, and you're right. There are some people that you and I guess my main objective in this session is being vulnerable with yourself is the main thing. If you
yes.
can also be vulnerable with other people, that's awesome. And I love your top bringing raising this to this discussion about there's discernment in that. Yeah, there are some people I would never because yeah, the first thing they'll do is either gossip about it or use it against you somehow or well,
Mhm.
Jill just told me. And it's like, wait, what? Or they'll misconstrue it and
Yeah.
it's factually maybe accurate, but they left out super important parts of it that
Mhm.
just are
Mm,
not favorable towards you. And that shady energy is just like, yeah, you want to definitely be cautious around people like that because they may always be that way. They could always change, but if they don't, love yourself enough to protect yourself from sharing with some people that don't like you said they're not trustworthy, they don't deserve your vulnerability, and
mhm.
in a way they don't deserve your authenticity in with things that are that sensitive.
Yes. Precious. Yeah, I kind of like my visual of it is like I have concentric circles of people that I interact with. Like
Mm.
and how close they get to how intimate and how real I am with them.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm not authentic, I mean,
No.
I'm I'm really happy to share intimate details about myself if it'll help somebody, right? And I
Hmm.
also will share things. I just want to bring this up. I don't know why it's coming up now, but gossip, I
Hmm.
think, because you mentioned it.
I did.
So gossip is an interesting thing. There's things in my life that I'm trying to make sense of, right? And figure out. And so I will share things about other people not because I'm like dissing them, but I'm trying to discover something about me and the interaction, right? And so I will talk about other people. And I mean, I've come to the place where I don't do it at length, in terms of, I might share frequently about somebody if it's an old, deep relationship that I just am trying to get a hold of the dynamics on to really become more of who I am, right? That's my goal. But there's other people, if you listen how they talk about other people, you're like, are they doing that? Or what are they doing in the
Mm.
way they talk about people? And there's the bubble I want to pop, which most people might be aware of this, but I'm inspired to say it anyway, is that I think for some reason they won't share about me that way. Like, "Oh, they're sharing, but they would never talk about me that way."
Mhm.
That is so not
Mm.
true. And even people that I've confronted about that, it's like, that's not kind, da da da. It's like, what have you said about me? Oh, nothing, nothing. And I'm like, uh-huh. Then I hear them intuitively
Yeah.
later dissing me. I'm like, I can hear them dissing me, on the airways. I
Mm.
was like, oh, another level of lesson.
Oh, that's rough. Yeah.
So it's like
And it's
vulnerability, it's real and it's important, and so is
mm,
discernment and how I navigate it all. Like,
mhm,
and it's not always perfect
mm.
either.
The other thing that this brings up, Janet, I love that you're saying this, is that there's a lot of practitioners in our community. There's a good chunk of this community that are also practitioners in
Mhm,
wellness, spirit-led giftedness offered as a service, that type of thing. And you just said something really important, which is it's also okay when there is a service or a gift that you provide to somebody else that you would benefit from also being the recipient of somebody doing that for you.
mhm,
It's so okay. And I
mhm,
feel like sometimes as practitioners, there's this perception that, well, I can't get sessions, or like me when I was kind of
mhm,
justifying and joking at myself that I don't go to other people's retreats. That's just ridiculous.
mhm,
There's so much benefit from receiving and paying for somebody else's services and giftedness because it's just because, right? We don't have to be everything for ourselves, even as specialties for somebody else. I mean, I'm pretty sure my dentist also goes to a dentist. I'm pretty sure the person that cuts and styles my hair has a hairstylist that also does their hair. So it's okay. It applies in our field too. It's all right. Um, and we if you feel like you need that or would benefit from that, please say yes to helping you feel as okay as you possibly can, because it's challenging.
I'm laughing because this happened not that long ago, and it wasn't with a practitioner. Not that I haven't, paid money for these types of services, but a friend of mine, I called her up and she was supporting me, and I'm laughing because she was basically saying and working with me in almost the exact same way I work with other people. And so as I was going into this, deep process with her, part of me is just like cracking up because it's so obvious to me that that's what's happening. And I very much appreciate it because it shifted. Again, it was one of those I wanna have opportunities where I just shift, like, so efficiently and so beautifully,
Mm.
and she was able to provide that for me in very much the same way I do for people, which was I get tickled. I mean, I'm not sure how many different experiences I'm conscious of at the same time, but, that's pretty funny sometimes, though, you know, what's all
We
happening.
can benefit too, right? I mean, we're the beneficiaries, we're also the service providers, and that I like that. I like supporting other people financially and their giftedness too. When there
Mhm,
is I'm not doing it to be nice, I'm doing it because I know I could use it, right? I
mhm.
love that. It feels good.
Mhm. It does,
Yeah.
and there are some incredibly gifted people, and I
Mm.
just love how it works too because I'm really into, like, the divine body, like, getting my body into
Mm.
another form right now, and I found some great people that are able to support me and that we can communicate on a very deep level,
Oh.
and as soon as I had that thought, gosh, because I was driving, an hour and 15 minutes away for this work, a type of this work, and I was like, "Oh god, I wish there'd be somebody locally." Sure enough, you know, 5 minutes from my house, just incredible practitioners,
Perfect.
and I love
It's so
supporting
good.
her. She's really
Yeah.
good, and I
Yeah.
benefit profoundly. It's so good.
Okay, there's another layer on a macro. How about disappointment I want to bring in? And this relates to a topic I don't think you and I know we've touched on it. And I was like, oh, at some point I want to talk about this. And maybe this is the time. Let's see how we're doing on time. Sometimes the disappointment is on a really big scale,
Mm,
right? I did give the example one time that I remember hearing, and I still see signs of this theory that
Mm,
everybody born after a certain date has a
mm,
higher vibration. They're all
mm,
intuitive. They don't have a shadow. I mean, I've heard a lot of different theories about those that
mm,
are coming in now are more evolved than we were, more
mm,
connected than we were. Um, and I love that idea. I mean, who wouldn't, right? And my kids were that was kind of even more exciting because my kids were born in 2002 and 2005, and they were in this crystal children era. And I was like, oh, everybody after 1999. Well, mine are in there. Woohoo, you know? And
mm,
I do love my children, and I hope all parents think of their children as connected and divine and special in the ways that they are, because all humans are, right? And they're in their own ways sometimes. And then they got into elementary school, and we did private schools, we did public schools, and I started to see other situations or neighbor kids, and I'm like, oh, there's definitely some, whoa, 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 wait a minute, like they just stole your Barbie. Like, what happened? I don't, what's happening? Got thievery going on, lying, just ugliness. And I'm like, oh, never mind. Okay. So that theory's blown just in my little data, my little world. That can lead to disappointment. And based on what we were talking about earlier, sometimes we don't have a system of for being real with ourselves about what we had been hoping would be true, or we'd been told by who we thought was an authority figure is true. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait, maybe it's not true. Maybe I can't make money at, you know, this thing I've invested years in and paid for the program. And they made it seem so easy that I had the gift and I had the talent to make money at whatever. And I'm not getting that result. I paid thousands of dollars for that. You know what I mean? Slow it down. Let yourself be disappointed. Let yourself be real and honest with yourself, whatever that means for you. Let all of your layers of damn it come up to the surface. Give it love. Add the words, it's okay. Damn it, and it's okay. And then you open yourself to the process of letting it be okay. So that could be on a macro scale. Who's the elected official in your country?
mm,
If it isn't somebody you voted for, or if the monarchy just isn't dying fast enough, I mean, I don't know what the situation is, but there's a whole bunch of opportunities for disappointment in this reality. Relationships, career, health, aging, politicians, leadership. I mean, it's kind of across the board. Weather, there's just so many parts of our lives that we can be disappointed in. And I would love for all of you to be open to creating a better system. Any improvement is worth it, and you can keep getting better and better and better at it. And it's not based on denialism, there's zero pretending, and it's resilience. And that's what this is.
mm, mm. Yeah.
Mm.
I just was, as you were sharing, Jill, I was thinking about if you talk to some of what we would consider successful people, whether there are somebody that practices a particular sport, whether they are in business, whether they write books, whatever they do, if you talk about them, some of them will say that the reason they're so successful is because they embraced failure. They didn't let
It's
that bother
good.
them.
Mhm.
And that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, it's really okay. It's really okay. And in this world, we do get to try things out and adapt. I remember years ago when I was making jewelry and like the first piece I made looked like this. And then as I kept doing it, there were layers of design that just kind of got added to it. And that's how it kind of is, And we get to choose.
Mm.
We get to choose that it's okay. We get to
Mm.
choose that. We get to
Yes.
define that. We get to own that. We get to feel what it feels like. And I don't know, it's really great when I can get to the point that I can make jokes about it because it's sometimes it's kind of funny. I
Mhm.
mean, I laugh at myself how I thought something how for some reason I
Mm.
thought this was gonna work out. And, was it naivete? Was it something somebody else said that I thought was true? I mean, maybe. And that doesn't have to matter either.
Right.
Like
Why
if
doesn't it have to matter? Janet, tell us.
I mean, if I think I'm gonna escape the human experience, I'm
Mm.
not. And anybody
Mm.
that you see that you might greatly admire, they have other aspects of their lives that you might not see. And some people are more real about it than others. And some people are
Hey,
pretending, and some people are living in some sort of bubble.
yes, that's when you were saying they might be more real about it. And I wanted to add with themselves.
Yeah.
Those people freak me out. I'm totally okay that a public figure or somebody that's in a leadership or teacher or professional role, I'm totally okay and I respect that there are aspects of their disappointment that they are not going to lead with or even address with you. Totally okay. But I do prefer people
Mm,
that I can tell they have a system of well-being in themselves where they're being honest about their failures, disappointments, mistakes, whatever those are. And they have a system of well-being and resilience and not letting it block their light, their love, their giftedness, their abilities, their strengths. And that's part of what this is, right? So yeah, I people that I maybe it's because of my giftedness, maybe it's experience, maybe it's both, but I have a spidey sense for people that are lying to themselves. And I just know it's not sustainable.
mm,
I know it's not sustainable. And or I know how much energy it takes
mm,
to live in that falseness, pretending that there aren't, and I'm just going to be super blunt here. People that are pretending there are no mistakes in this reality, and that's it is my characterization of it. They are pretending that there's no mistakes. They are pretending that failure isn't an option or doesn't exist. I'm
mm,
concerned about them
mm,
because it requires so much energy to manage your thoughts, your energy field, your ability to get up in the world and go, yep, everything is great today. And I'm just like, are you sure about that? I mean,
mm,
but there's mindset people. I know professional athletes, I know retired college successful athletes that have that mindset of my thoughts cannot be on failure or you are doomed to fail.
mm,
And that takes a lot of energy.
mm,
Exhausting. It's exhausting for me as an energetically sensitive person. It's exhausting to be around them because I was just there when they were told no or something that they wanted didn't happen or the house of cards just fell and I'm just like what can I do to help, are we all right? What game are we going to pretend now? Well, it wasn't meant to happen. That's the number one answer that people use. Well, it was just meant to I wasn't meant to get this one. Okay, you letting yourself be sad about that? No, there's nothing to be sad about. Well, is there anything you can learn from it? No, because I didn't make any mistakes, Jill. I just told you it was meant to happen.
mm.
No. Just like, okay, never mind. You're right. La 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 la.
That's
La.
well, that's
Sorry
we
if I
could
got too
probably
real on that one.
we could probably talk for 4 or 5 episodes on the intricacies of thought processes and where the health lies within that, I would say.
Cognitive dissonance, spiritual bypassing. There's some really great psychological terms that are buzzwords now because they're common.
Oh gosh. And then so there's that, and then there's this which in terms of how I see energy working and how creation works in
Yeah.
this consciousness, then there's this other thing where we do get to clean this up or this won't work. So there's like the way thought works and the way all that works. There's so many fine lines with this because
Mm.
negativity does breed negativity. Denialism is a different
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yes.
There's like, whoa, like you just said like 500 things. I was like, yeah, I could go like, yeah, 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 so many places with that because it's
Don't be negative. I'm like, it's just exploring the facts here. That's what we're doing. Because you're right. Somebody being real, right? Well, don't be so negative. God, you're always so negative. And I don't think anyone's ever said that about me, but it's okay if they I'm I'm okay. If they did, right? That's their perception. I know differently. But you're right. There is such a
Oh.
and this gets into thought police. I don't know if everyone else is familiar with that term, but the people that I know that are devoted to law of attraction and
Yeah.
positive thinking, the level of policing of their thoughts, and we did talk about that in one of the earlier episodes, and I gave the example of a shark. It was, mommy, is there a shark when we were trying to swim with the dolphins in the wild and, natural environment?
Yeah.
Not at a park, not at a dolphin park. Um, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, I guess there could be sharks here." Good. Okay. What do you say? She was like 7 at the time. We're
Oh.
way out in the ocean. Anyway, so this negative thinking, and I have to only think positive thoughts, and uh, you're okay, you guys. You're okay even if you're not thinking positively. You're okay if you're not
Mm.
following the laws of attraction. You're
Mhm.
okay if you're not at the 0 point frequency. Yeah, it may never have
Yeah, and I think that is the overlying theme that we're really trying to offer here is that it's
been.
okay. No matter what the
Okay.
details are, no matter what. And it's better what we're offering is to be honest
It's
about what the
better.
details are.
And that's not just positive thinking.
That
Yeah.
isn't. And that's where the choice points really open up.
Mhm.
And that's really where the opportunities are, because otherwise it
Yeah.
does become some loop of some, altered reality that doesn't mesh with a form of nowness of being here,
Mhm. Yeah.
it doesn't work very well. It isn't sustainable.
Yeah.
Although some people do live that way their whole lives, and then that's a whole nother thing about what happens after they pass.
At passing and after they pass. And I don't want to
Mhm.
scare anybody, but when you know what you know, you kind of want to, if it's a motivator to kind of take care of things in your now, oh, please, please do for your own sake and for your loved ones and for your experience when you drop the bodysuit, you're still an energetic field.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
by living your life in harmony with the lightheartedness and the buoyancy and the what I like to call the godliness that you have a much smoother process while you're alive, when you're passing, and after you pass.
Mhm.
It's
Absolutely.
all relevant and it's all very much related.
Mhm. It very
The
much is.
other thing that's on my heart, Janet, is are individuals that they don't remember the last time they felt okay. They've
Mm.
been feeling not okay for so long, and it's not even about pretending. They're being real with themselves, but they're in a serious state. And for them, I would just encourage you, please don't give up. And maybe that's a different message for them. Get the help that you need, that you are led to, that you deserve to begin to feel okay, perhaps for the first time in a long time. There are so many things to try that you may not have tried, and I don't want you to give up. What
Mhm.
would you say to that? I know we're taking a little, hopefully, where there is a small subset, Janet, but I just want to acknowledge for some people, I do hear occasionally from people that are in pretty feeling a very low state of desire
Mhm.
to be here on the planet, to be alive, even. And sometimes they listen to individuals like you or I, or both of us in this experience, to just be around somebody that day that wants to be here and
Mhm.
that is feeling okay and maybe helps them feel a little bit okay, but it's very different than what we feel of most of the time. So I want to hear what you have to say in that
Yeah.
situation too.
The first thing, I just want to take a breath with you and offer you
Mhm.
so much love.
Mm.
I This is a place where realism is very helpful.
Mm.
To just know that if you've been in that place for that long, to
Mm.
just be honest about that. To be very honest about it. To be honest about the things that you tried and didn't work, to be honest about that.
Mm,
and about how the motivation from those things you tried was really about wanting to be better.
mm,
And a lot of times that's fear based. The driver is fear based. So when I'm honest, when you can be honest about what's really happening and that you're still here, you're breathing, blood is flowing through your veins, your heart is beating, and God is here, whatever you want to call God or universal life force, and it's here for you.
mm,
And with that level of honesty
mm.
can come a new beginning.
It's so big.
And
Mm,
I guarantee you, if you did some sort of prayer, and I mean, help is a prayer when it comes from that true place
mm.
of not of honesty, something will happen. I don't know what. And I will say too that I've known people, I can think of multiple people that I've known that have been in that state and they're not today.
It's so big, Janet. I would encourage someone if they're not led towards like a traditional mental health professional, that the amazing well-being that somebody can receive from your sessions, I would highly recommend somebody consider that. um there's also that lack of hope is such a big part of it when somebody is in a really serious state of not feeling okay.
Mhm.
And again, if it's long enough where they don't even remember the last time they felt okay, that's again, just I felt your love for them, Janet. That was so beautiful. I feel the compassion. I also want to add, you're not doing it wrong. There's something serious going on here, and you deserve another approach or another answer or something new, so that maybe there is something uh, real, going on there that you deserve support with. I have a silly example, Janet. It may not be silly at all. I have a loved one that is more prone to a depressed kind of state of beingness. And we were going to a sort of a functional medicine expert, a certified nurse practitioner in our area, and she did blood tests and she was like, "Oh, you have this MTHFR gene mutation." And I love language, and I immediately thought of motherfucker, MTHFR. I'm like, you got a lot of consonants there, and I know what I'd put in there. So motherfucker gene mutation. Okay. Is what I said to them when they were telling me about it. And she started to laugh, and she didn't want to laugh. She's like, this is serious still. I'm like, okay, but what did she say? She
Yeah.
said it's a real thing. It shows up in my blood work. There's a test to do it. She said it's controversial. There's a lot of more
Mm,
traditional medical professionals that will say it's not real, it's made up, there's no data, there's no research. But here's the thing. If you take this supplement, there's a prescription supplement that is, I guess it's also used as like a prenatal vitamin
mm,
for women. And it has this extra other thing in it. And I think hers is, I think she said it's Embrace, EN. No, that's the one that I take. Because then I figured out, even though I'm not prone to depression, which
mm,
I would admit if I did, it's not a shameful thing in my world at all. It's a
mm,
thing. This Embrace, ENBRAC-HR. I have medical insurance, knock on wood, thankfully, but I have to pay out of pocket for it. It's like 100, I think, and $20 a month. I forgot to take it, and then I was like, maybe I don't need that anymore, and I stopped taking it. And then I was like, wait, I should be taking my Embrace again because this person that initially found out about, she's related to me. And I was like, well, maybe I need it too. I had forgotten to take it, and then I started taking it again, and it literally was like the lights went on a higher dimmer switch, and I was like, oh my God, how silly of me to forget that I needed this,
mm,
to know I'm okay. Right. So and I had never heard of that before. My loved one had never heard of it before. And it does make a difference for her. For her, it's not a magic bullet for her, but it does make a difference. And
mm,
any improvement is improvement.
mhm. That's right.
Is that a good example?
Yeah, it's an example of hope and not knowing where the help will come from.
Mm, good. Yeah.
because we don't. And that's why being honest about where I'm at opens me up to see other things, because then
Mm.
I'm not as fear-based, and that makes all the difference in the world in my it just does, you know.
And think of how the thoughts can be deceptive too. With somebody that is in a serious situation, I know that the thoughts can be, I've already tried everything. I already know everything there is to know, and there's no hope for me. And that's a lie. The
Mhm,
thoughts are in a loop, self-deception that's
mhm.
keeping them from exploring, being curious about what else actually may make a difference for them.
In the recovery communities, we joke about, and it's not really a joke, it's experience, how
Mm.
desperation is a gift, because
Mm.
desperation opens up the door. It
Ah.
drops the old ideas of what is true.
Mm.
So actually, of what is not true, so that I could see what possibly is true, because
That's good.
I get so pigeonholed into thinking this, and come to
Mm.
find out there's stuff here that isn't applicable to anything. And
Mm.
desperation does lead to a level of openness,
Mm.
oftentimes, and it
Mm.
often this is often true around spiritual help.
Mm.
Desperation opens up the door to deeper levels of spiritual help where I didn't think I could get it, that it's not possible. It basically can make the impossible possible, but not in a heady sort of way, in a I am here and I really need help, and the universe will, God will help me.
That's so big.
And that's true whether it's maybe the situation physically won't change, but my way of dealing with it and interacting with it does. And that's just as important, right? Just as valuable. And then there's all kinds of things that can happen physically. I mean, I shared in a couple podcasts ago, like I've changed my DNA like more than once in multiple ways, right?
Cool. Yeah,
And so the things that are I mean, there's whole sciences on it, right? Epigenetics, look it up. It's pretty cool, There's all kinds of things that are possible now that we did not believe was possible before as
that's
a
right.
society in general. So
Mhm.
there's hope even when you don't think there is. And
Oh, that's so big.
the most
Thank you
valuable
for that.
people are usually the ones that have had that experience and been through it, that we can actually listen to and hear.
That's big. It's funny, there's a part of me, I don't think it's defensiveness. What you're talking about right there has been a sensitive subject for me, and that kind of relates to number 18
Mm,
because there's a lot of people with spiritual giftedness. I know we're going a little bit long. I apologize to everybody. There's a lot of instances of individuals that have spiritual gifts that came about them through um, devastation, through desperation,
mm,
dark night of the soul, it just hitting rock bottom in their lives, just really
mm,
tragic circumstances, near death experiences, right? Their story of giftedness came about from
mm,
desperation or tragedy or severe trauma, and mine didn't.
mhm,
So, and I have had a very
mm,
uh, blessed life in a lot of ways. I don't have a trauma story, or at least not one that I carry around as part of my
mm,
description of why I've accessed the gifts that I have. And I used to lament this a little bit with what I call my team, my spiritual guidance, my godliness. Like, I don't have a good story. Like, how do I explain to people how I can do what I do? And I didn't experience this like that person. I don't have that experience like that person, and I didn't come about from my giftedness from having lived through something tragic. I don't understand. Like, I don't know how. I know I understand it myself, but I don't know how to explain it. And then finally it came to me, your story is you don't have that story. Your story, Jill, is that that's not required.
mhm.
And I'm like, okay, but it doesn't sell as well, guys. I was teasing. And it's true, it doesn't sell as well, right? Anyway, but that's fine. So
It
I'm an example that you don't have to have lived through hell and back
Yeah.
to be wise, to be spiritually gifted, to be present in source energy. it it can, and I know other people that have been through hell and back and are kind of still in hell in some ways
Mhm.
in their lives, and they're not spiritually gifted. So not only is desperation, it doesn't automatically lead to spiritual enlightenment, but spiritual enlightenment is also not dependent on feeling desperate in your life.
Yeah.
We've
Like,
uncoupled those.
yeah.
And
I
if they
com
go together for you, that's great.
yeah.
It's good. Use
I
it.
com I completely agree. Like, don't attach them as a necessity, you know? It's funny because I really feel like I've always well, galactic shaman, right? Like, I came
Mhm.
in with who I am. And, um, and I also know that one of the reasons I'm here is to, kind of undo some of the stuff we've done on our planetary and that we've done that hasn't been so cool, the separation-based stuff, right? Which, and I've also had desperation moments, and I've also had so I've had, like, such variety of experiences here, and I've always had my giftedness. I mean, I can think back of being in elementary school on the
Mm.
phone with people, and I was like, "Shit, I was doing that back then." Like,
Cool.
who
I
knew?
love that.
Like,
Yeah.
I can't remember.
That's
It's
so
good.
good.
Yeah,
That's so
so
good.
we should probably wrap
Oh,
up. Yeah?
I hope we offered
Um,
assurance to those that were in any way needing it. And I feel like we covered a lot of bases there. We probably went into, I apologize if I led us down some meandering paths like we're lost in Venice or something, but hopefully they were a good kind of getting lost.
mhm,
Where it's so beautiful and so useful. But it was such a pleasure to offer more, maybe more tools and insights for well-being and
mhm,
centered well-being and self-love, which is, we didn't use that term, but that's a huge part of what this is. An acknowledgement that this reality can have its disappointments, and that's okay. It doesn't
mhm,
mean you're a disappointment.
mhm. That's right, and it doesn't mean that God as you is not here because you can't turn that off, even if your experience is challenging.
Oh, so big. We could do a whole other topic on that. God is here, and here's how we know.
Yeah, we might have
Because
to do that one.
that's a big storyline of individuals that are in more traditional, conventional religion. That's their faith crisis for a lot of individuals is, well, God clearly isn't here, right? I
Mhm,
mean, well, traditional Christians are thinking God, Jesus is coming back because he's not here, which means God isn't here and the Holy Spirit isn't here, and they're clinging to a book. And I'm just like, okay, hang on, new story.
yeah, there's all different types of religions, right? There's and I you know more
Yeah.
about that. We were talking about Mormonism, right?
Oh.
Right? We didn't get into that, but that I mean, there's some very
We
impressive characteristics of Mormonism that I absolutely love, and then there's some other aspects I'm like, "Really? That's part of that religion? I didn't know." Right? So,
yeah,
it's I mean, just talking about religion in general and how, how we can be our God that we are regardless. Yeah, that would be
yeah.
kind of fun.
Oh my gosh, adjusting to life beyond a faith you used to believe in, right? Is a really popular experience that a lot of individuals are having right now. And I definitely see it. I'm in Idaho, so there's a very high Mormon population here, but I wasn't here until I was 13 and I'd never heard the term Mormon. So yes, I would love to do another conversation about Mormonism in general and supporting those that are starting to question or have been questioning their faith and haven't found their center
Mhm,
in something that's working well for them, because I know our strategies and what I want to say no is true, but then also our believing is true,
mhm,
can be a huge upgrade and a really safe haven for them to have a
mhm.
closer relationship to God than, in my experience, those religions and those faiths provide.
Yeah, it's interesting because in Arizona, there's a fairly large Mormon population too that I didn't know
Yes.
about, and I'll meet
Mhm.
people and I'll notice these certain characteristics, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I wonder."
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, so it's
Yeah.
interesting to
Utah's the highest, and then somewhere in there is Arizona, Nevada, and Idaho.
wow,
Yeah.
fascinating.
We're in
All
the
right,
belt, the
everybody.
Mormon belt.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. I hope you enjoyed number 19. Thank you for subscribing, following, liking, commenting, sharing. If there was a favorite part that you want somebody to hear and you're thinking this might be that Jill made this one too long, it's okay to note. Like if you share it with somebody, my favorite part, I really want you to hear 19 minutes and 20 seconds. There's a section right there that I feel you'd absolutely, it was like just what we were talking about the other day. That happens a lot with people where we're verbalizing something that they were just talking about or just thinking about. So thank you for trusting that if you're thinking about this for somebody else, trust that you're just offering it. You're not forcing anything on anyone. You're just saying, hey, I wonder, I thought about you with this and I wonder if it would be helpful.
Mm.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks,
Jill. Thank
Janet.
you, everybody. Bye.
Bye, everybody.